Hey there, welcome back to the Majestic Devlog. In this past month, I've worked on AI, enemies, friendlies, some abilities for dealing with enemies. I created a herding system for some of the animals. There's wildlife. There's a whole lot to unpack here, so we'll just jump right into it. The AI in this game is going to be fairly basic, nothing too complicated. There are animals that are these white, glowing spirit animal creatures. They will populate the wildernesses and landscapes. The game in general is a classic light versus dark, good versus evil type of game. And you have like the creatures that are the darkness. You have the wildlife, your character, and other fantasy creatures are the light. AI is something I've never spent too much time on, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I'm doing wrong or that could be done better, but this is kind of where we stand now. To begin, I wanted to set up like the base class for all AI, and that's what I have here. It's simple. There's a skeletal mesh and just a simple collision sphere. Since you're flying, your character flies, I want the collision to be forgiving, nothing too precise. So it's just a giant sphere around the entity. And all of my AI have some sort of particle effects. The AI class derives from the character class because I wanted to use the ability system component. The ability system is set up in C++ and is part of my Majestic character base class. So my AI base class is going to derive from that. In case I want to give any of my AI characters abilities, that'll be helpful there. Also with the gameplay ability system, I can take advantage of attributes, gameplay effects, gameplay cues, so it just makes sense. Another thing, I have a component, the navigation invoker. One issue with my level is it's too big to have a navigational mesh. It would take up way too much memory and slow things down. So this navigation invoker is for the AI to create the navigational mesh temporarily around them, kind of automatically. So that's what they do. And they have the movement component to be able to move around. One big challenge with my AI is because everything is different creatures and animals, the skeletal meshes are all different. So one thing with skeletal mesh are the animation blueprints can only be linked to a single type of skeletal mesh. And in the past, I was creating an animation blueprint for every different type of animal. And you still have to do that to a large part, but now Unreal has some features that allow you to share logic, and really you're just setting up the animations, which ones go to which character, without having to deal with all the logic that decides when they should go off. I'm using an animation blueprint template, which has all the logic for my AI. And then I create these variables for the animations, blend spaces, and sequences. This animation blueprint template can then be used in the character's animation blueprint as a simple one node. There's no event graph, functions, or anything else. All I need to do is change out the variables in the node with the correct animations for this character. So that's a huge time savings in terms of setting up the character and getting the animations working. So that's been a huge help. Right now, I only have a movement blend space to handle all of the movement, the turns at different speeds. Here you can see turning left to right, walking, galloping, and then the other animation, simply an idle sequence for when they're not moving. That's where the AI stands right now, but it's easily expandable if I want them to attack, do special abilities, or anything else. I have set up a herding behavior for some of the animals, such as doe and wolves and maybe bears. They mostly spawn in packs, and they will move in a similar direction and stay close to one another. So regarding enemies, most of my enemies are characters from the epic game Paragons. This here is Rampage, and I basically took their models and I reduced down the mesh quite significantly, and then I took the model into Blender and I merged all the materials into one channel, which reduces the draw cause. So this character has just one material, and it's kind of a galaxy material. I was going something like a void darkness. This is the default Rampage, and you can see he has quite a few materials, which really add draw cause and affect performance. You see he has some extra geometry on his arm. There's a chain. I removed that. And with the other characters, I removed, if they had a weapon, I removed their weapons. His base model is 70 or 80,000 vertices. I've reduced that down to about 10,000 vertices. Here's an effect I set up for my NPCs. It's used for friendly and enemies. I just changed the color, just something floaty and basic. This is one of the enemies. This is Severog from Paragon. Again, the character heavily modified. I removed a lot of geometry around the head from this character to make him look more wraith-like. I'm basically testing abilities right now. This is a slow cast ability. It's a supernova type ability, which will obliterate all enemies in a large area around you. Setting this ability up took quite a bit of time. There's a lot going on with this ability. From the channeling, you can release and stop channeling at different points. And then I have this dash ability. It's like a super dash. So there's the regular dash, you press the button, but if you hold the button, you channel for only a couple seconds and go even faster. And your character will basically emit light, these yellow particles, and then that will also damage enemies. So the dash ability is more of the single target, one-shot kill type ability. It's more fast-paced, action-y. And then there's the channeled ability, which is slower, more calculated. You want to be in a good position to use it. Here's some of the effects for the channeling. Again, there's a strong focus on darkness and light. Here's one of the burst effects. When you hit an enemy, it's the purple color. So there's been a lot going on. These abilities have taken me approximately 2 weeks to set them up. The AI enemies and wildlife have also taken me approximately 2 weeks. Now I have to get the AI into the game in a reasonable, logical fashion. That's the next challenge. Kind of scripting and placing them more intelligently. For the moment, I have a couple managers that randomly spawn them in the world, but there's a lot of work to do to have them spawned more intelligently. Also, the enemies, there will likely be some form of damage that your character will take from them. And most importantly, there's some story events that incorporate enemies and these abilities, and I have to do a lot of the scripting and tying all that together. That being said, I decided to take another break from all of that, and I'm back to transforming the level and doing more visuals with it. And here's a super quick preview of some of what's going on lately. Just doing a lot of water work and some additional effects. I think that's going to be it for this one. Please wishlist it on Steam subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.